Thank you, Michael. Hey, let's take a couple more deep breaths. So if you will, just exhale first, and then take a deep breath in, and let it go. Another deep breath in, and let go. One more full collective deep breath, and let go. And so, I cannot believe it is December. It's almost 2023, y'all. Whoa. And for those of you who've been here all year, 2022 has been what we've been calling our year of inner and outer permaculture. And so each month we've been exploring the 12 different principles of regenerative agriculture, also known as permaculture, as our month's themes. And we've been exploring not only how do we use those out in the world, but how can those principles become lenses about how we navigate our internal landscape, how we create a sustainable mind and a sustainable life. And so we've been looking at a different principle each month, and we're hitting the 12th principle. And it's kind of hard to wrap my mind around this whole year exploration is actually wrapping up. And so the final principle is integrate, don't segregate. Right? And this is kind of wrap up a lot of the principles we've been exploring, because if you were here in January, we started with this idea of observe and interact, right? This is the principles of permaculture, but also the principles of mindfulness and of spiritual living, right? It's about paying attention and then acting from that place of conscious awareness, right? Observe and interact. In February, we looked at the principle use and value diversity, talking about how if we look to nature, nature thrives when the ecosystem is diverse. You can't just have one plant or one animal in an environment. It doesn't work. Things do not survive. Things get sick. Infections come in. It's not how life works. That life thrives when the environment is filled with diversity. Right? And we've explored 9 more principles other than that. I'm not going to remember them all right now. We've looked at ideas like use renewable energy, right? About look to create from patterns to details. And so this month we're talking about this idea of integrate, don't segregate, right? And this idea of permaculture emerged as a philosophy to help us get away from agriculture, which is all about growing one thing in rows in a field of a monocrop, right? And what maybe we don't think about is that when we engage in activities like that, when we grow our food like that, when our entire society is based around this idea of sameness in rows, that gets into our bodies and minds, right? And so these principles of permaculture are here to invite us to start to look at how do we integrate ourselves into a harmonious relationship with life, with nature, right? There's a lot of stories going on in the world about who we are as humans on the planet. Many of them, some people might think that we're a disease on the planet or that we're something separate from nature. And that thinking causes us to think that we are separate from nature. It causes us to think that we are separate from the cause and effect that's happening in the world out there. And to realize that each one of us we do not live in a vacuum. We are not isolated from each other, that we are actually overlapping. That even right now as we sit in this room, the energetic magnetic field from each one of our hearts goes out like 20 feet in every direction. So you're actually sitting in the overlap of the energetic field of the people around you. You're not just sitting in your chair. You expand into the room. Hey, so do I. That's fun. Thank you, Susan. The sound is back on. That's fun. That woman, I tell you. And, one of the things that I want to say is look, for those of you who've been in this community for a long time, look back at the evolution of this place over the last year or so. For many years, this community really existed inside of these walls. And there was a small group of people who knew each other, who loved each other. But it was kind of like, we come here to be together. But that's kind of stops there. And in the last year or so, something has opened in us. And we started to bring in other communities, other overlapping circles. We started to open ourselves up to our neighborhood, to expand into the community of Santa Cruz. And look what's happening. As all of the overlapping circles start to come together, this new pattern is emerging, which is this vibrant and thriving community, right? And that the faces of this community are changing. The who is here is shifting. And that's something powerful to notice, that we are building a new culture for ourselves, right? And part of that involves us opening our doors to not just be us, a group of people who may believe something similar to each other, but to open these doors to other groups of individuals who are also seeking greater truths, right? And so many of you know, starting in January next year, we're going to be sharing our space with the Hadesh Yameinu Jewish Renewal Community under the direction of Rabbi Eli. And they're going to be having their services here on Friday nights and Saturday mornings as we have our service on Sunday. We're going to be collaborating and doing things together, right? I've gotten involved in the Out in Our Faith interfaith queer advocacy group locally. We've been doing a lot of work together, right? And there's a number of other groups of individuals who are coming into this space and saying, hey, I want to bring what I have here. I want to share my gift here. I want to participate with this community. And I really believe that the deepest spiritual work we can do on planet Earth is be in community with each other. Because I tell you, the most difficult spiritual practice of mine can be relationships. Because people are interesting. You know, and we all come with all kinds of stuff, all kinds of histories, all kinds of beliefs, all kinds of perspectives. And it's when we bump up against each other, it's when we share ideas, it's when we disagree, it's when we have ways of learning how to line up with each other that we actually invite ourselves to grow. That we open ourselves up to see more than perhaps we did before. And really being in relationship with other humans is the highest level spiritual practice you can engage in if you do it consciously. And it takes a lot of conscious effort sometimes. I don't know if you have anyone in your life or anyone in society who's rubbing up against you in uncomfortable ways, but there's an invitation there, right? When we come up into those conflicts, when we bump into those ideas that are difficult for us, the opportunity is there to ask ourselves, how can I integrate this new information, or this new perspective, or this new way of seeing, or this new thing that I didn't know about that I do now? How do I integrate that into my awareness, right? Because what's happening in our nation more and more and more is we see people segregating from each other if they have different ideas and beliefs. And we're starting to create these sort of little pockets where we call it the echo chamber, right? Where you just only want to hear your own perspective come back to you. We have to be the antidote for that thing. We have to, we've heard Reverend Tamara speak over and over and over again every month when she's up here, that it's the conversations with the people that we disagree with that are going to open our minds and hearts to see something we couldn't before, right? And Ken Wilber, who created the integral theory, one of the things I loved I was watching him talk years ago about how he came to integral theory, and he said he first had to come to this conclusion that no human mind was capable of 100% error. That even if someone or something seems completely wrong, there might be 1% of what they're saying that's useful or important. But we have to be able to listen through all the other stuff. And I think what happens oftentimes is that when we hear someone who disagrees with us, or they come at us from a different political party or background of some kind that feels different than ours, as soon as we hear or see something that feels different, we just discount the entire thing. instead of listening for maybe there's a little grain of truth, maybe there's one little opening, maybe there's one place that we overlap or agree that we could begin to explore and find common ground together. Right? But we have to begin with curiosity. We have to be willing to open ourselves up and not make the other wrong, even if they are. And be willing to open ourselves up and just listen. Because I think that sometimes what people need is just to be heard. And when we're willing to listen, perhaps something deeper might be there. Right? And so I want us to, as we go through this month, as we move into the time of the holidays and the winter solstice and all the things that are happening in December, to use this as an opportunity to really look at all that's available to us in our world. We live in a radically diverse society, filled with people of different backgrounds and religions and faiths and beliefs, and there's so much richness for us if we're willing to open our hearts and minds and look for the deeper truths, look for our shared understanding, look for the commonalities with each other. And so as we move into this darkest time of year and also the time of emerging towards the return of the light after winter solstice, to really think about how each one of us can carry that light of opening our minds to be an integrated people who are willing to maybe let go of some of the ways that we hold those segregational borders and boundaries around our minds, our life, our community. How can we open ourselves up to be more than we've ever been before? And we're going to explore this a little bit, week by week, through the end of the year. So take a deep breath in and let go. And before we pray, we're going to do something here briefly. Because as we're talking about coming together as community, being in community together, many of you know a couple weeks ago we had our new member class. And there is about 12 or 13 people here who a couple weeks ago committed to say, I want to be a member of this community. And they don't know I'm about to ask them to do this, but surprise. Would those individuals, I know that that's Charity and Stan and Kathy, and there's Yvonne if you're here, Lori, there's a few others. If you would just come up, stand up right here just for a moment. I'm not going to make you do anything too crazy, but I just want our friends, our community to see your faces, to know who you are. So here's what I want to do, because I want you to know who these people are. I want you to know their names. I want you to recognize their faces. I'm just going to go down this line, and I'm going to ask each of you to introduce yourself by giving us a word that describes yourself that starts with the same letter as your first name, right? And then we're all going to repeat that back to you. So the example is, I am enthusiastic Elisha. Enthusiastic Elisha. All right. Yep. You got to take this so the folks online can hear you.
Sane Stan.
Sane Stan.
Yes, Yvonne.
Yes, Yvonne.
Victorious Victoria.
Victorious Victoria.
Joyful Jane.
Joyful Jane.
Kind Kathy.
Kind Kathy.
Charismatic Charity.
Charismatic Charity.
Sassy Shira.
Sassy Shira.
Lucky Lori.
Lucky Lori.
Special Susie.
Special Susie. Excellent. Okay, now stay here. We're almost done with this part. Okay, so now, if you're already a member of this community, would you just stand up for me for a moment? And rub your hands together like this. And put them out in front of you. And I'm going to ask these folks just to receive this, and you all to repeat after me. Beloveds, we see who you are.
We see who you are.
You are the image and likeness of God.
You are the image and likeness of God.
You are the universe expressing.
You are the universe expressing.
You are evolution.
You are evolution.
You are possibility. We welcome you. And look forward to knowing who you are. And so it is. Thank you, friends. Have a seat. Everybody take a deep breath in and let go. And so as we breathe, let us just step into this moment of gratitude and joy for everything that is unfolding here in this place. Let each of us just take a deep breath in and let go. And just feel the warmth and the resonance of this thing that we call community. This deep invitation to be in relationship with each other, to let down the borders and the boundaries of who we perceive ourselves to be, and let each other in. Let us open our hearts and minds to be a place where something new takes place. Where awakening, where possibility, where love, where understanding, where healing happen. And so I just speak a word of gratitude for each person here, for these new members of this community, for all members of this community, for everyone who is exploring and visiting what we are doing here. I am just so incredibly grateful because there is a deep collective energy that is waking in all of us, and it is because all of us. I am reminded of the African principle Ubuntu, which tells us that I am because of who we are. That each one of us exists because of the community that we are part of. And so let us just give thanks for this and be in the love and let it be. And so it is.